Self-care can be a superpower. I'll share 5 self-care strategies and how to set limits. Let's start. During Nurses Week, all of us around the country and across the globe celebrate in our own special ways. My way has always been from the platform. This year, because of coronavirus and because of the situation in which we find ourselves, I decided to host a week-long series of programs. So again, I'd like to welcome you to day 4. Yes, it is Saturday, and today we'll be talking about self-care, which is something that each and every one of us needs and cherishes. So let me start the slide share. So let's face it, the more you face, the more you overcome. We've all been through floods and turmoil and disasters and earthquakes and heaven knows what more. But nothing, no matter where we are or where we're from, has ever taken the toll that it appears COVID-19 is taking. It really is a travesty. But we're nurses and we do overcome and we do better and we do more. And in the face of turmoil, we really rise to the occasion and step it up and become even stronger than ever before. This is your time to shine, with or without that mask. But self-care is a part of that process, and it's what allows you to raise to the level to which you need to raise and be all things for yourself. So don't count on the things that you do the things that count, in the words of Zig Ziglar. It's really important to take that deep breath, to smell the roses or the dandelions, whatever they are. Just take that time for yourself. And so today we'll be talking about self-care and why that is so important for each of us. The power of self-care. First of all, valuing you, honoring, nurturing, loving, respecting, being kind to you. Self-care, no matter what field of work we're in, is at the core of successful living. The other day on one of the calls, I mentioned the fact that caregivers are essentially what we call in Chinese medicine, earth personalities. They care for everyone else before they ever take time to care for themselves. So the laundry is done, the dishes are done, the laundry is folded, it's put away, probably not with the help of little kids, but because you did it. Groceries are bought, and yes, they're brought into the house and put away as well, or Instacart, or someone else delivered them, and they still need to be put away. But it's really all about doing everything else for everyone else before you take the time to do it for yourself. Taking time for self-care has a positive impact on our quality of life and empowers each of us to then reach our goals. Let's focus on that. Let's make that our mantra. So I ask you to be your own cheerleader. First, for self-care, assuming responsibility for yourself, making sure that you get that good night's sleep, you're well hydrated, you take care of you. Working and living in a healing environment, napping. A healing environment can be a healing environment at work, where some places have actually set up respite centers. I consulted many years ago at the University of Santo Tomas in the Philippines, in Manila, and I helped them create a wellness respite center for the student nurses. At the time, they were exporting close to 600 nurses per year and were the biggest exporter of RN talent anywhere in the world. They understood the concept of why it was so important to have respite for those students. So if your respite is something within your institution that maybe has a quiet room that is device-free, or maybe has a place in which you can close your eyes for 15 minutes and take a nap, or in your own home if you have a quiet corner, and it's not the corner that you get sent to because you misbehaved, but a quiet corner in which you can just be you for a few minutes, close your eyes and just think. That in itself is part of a healing environment. So read and interpret the signals that your body and your mind are sending to you and make sure that you take care of them. Here's a quantum leap, a saying by Henry David Thoreau that says, many men go fishing all of their lives without ever knowing that it's not fish they're after. You know what you are after. Do you have a purpose? Do you have a vision? Do you have a need? And do you know how to? So do your homework. First of all, you're vulnerable. We're all vulnerable. Your body is a precious commodity. When we started on this earth, we all started on a relatively even playing field. We're all born, absent some congenital anomalies, with a pretty healthy body. And sometimes what we do to that body in the name of growing old and growing wiser, or perhaps not so wise, perhaps growing smaller or growing wider, Perhaps growing shorter, that's happening to many of us, or maybe even growing taller with the advent of 5-inch heels. Our bodies are precious. Health is so important. And regardless of where you are at this point in your life, if you're a novice or if you're an expert, if you're a new entity within the nursing community, new talent for us, or if you've been around for many years and are still sharing that wonderful talent, be balanced at work and in life. How do we do that? First, we set limits. We set limits on our hours, on our days, on our time, on people, on interests, and on fun. So how? First of all, don't we all have the same 24 hours in the day? Why, for some of us, does it feel as if each day has 30 or 36 hours? Know that that's not possible. Only have a certain given number of hours, and some of those hours have to be spent resting. We also have a certain number of days in the week. In general, the last time I checked, there were 7. Sometimes we seem to stretch that out and think that there are going to be more, but it doesn't work that way. And then time. The same way in which you make an appointment with others, make an appointment on your calendar, on your phone, on your device, with yourself. Give yourself that 15-minute block of time where it's only for you. Surround yourself then with the people who make you feel great. Don't be around people who make you feel toxic. I grew up in a toxic environment. Perhaps you did as well. I was a runaway at 10 and left home at 15. Not everybody has that story to tell. I didn't want to be in a toxic place with people who made me feel less than desirable, less than valuable, and totally unimportant. So I'll sometimes say I was the middle of 5 children, but I was an only child, and I really felt alone. So think about setting limits on your interests. Make sure that those interests are diverse. I understand that Sue spends a lot of time studying Florence Nightingale and has written books and is really interested in that particular topic. Hopefully she, like the rest of you, have other interests as well. Maybe it's art, maybe it's science, maybe it's family, maybe it's grandkids. Always seem to put a smile on all of our faces. And that brings us to fun. We can have time for fun. How do you have time for fun? Hang up streamers in your office, put up a couple of balloons, have some fresh flowers, or if not fresh flowers, some fake flowers from Target or some other store that look like they're real, that don't need to be watered. Many years ago when we lived in Illinois, I remember we had a screened porch and it was pretty dark because we were in the woods. And I had a lot of potted plants on that porch. Once I went out of town for a few days, and when I came home, my husband said I watered all of the plants on the porch. And I said, great, but they're all silk. I hope they truly enjoyed the experience. We all have to have those interests, those flowers, that fun that makes us feel great. We all need personal downtime. For you, think about it. It might be a slow app or a server. What do you do when your computer is not cooperating with you? Because Zoom right now is on overdrive. The internet is on overdrive. Everyone is using everything, and everything is much slower than usual. Same could be true of your body and mind. When it's not responding, if you want it to respond, what do? If it's your phone, you plug it in and recharge it. If it's your body, you can't quite plug it in. But what do for your most precious commodity? You need to do something. It's a signal from your body that it's time for downtime. You can journal, be centered, tap into your creative side. I'm amazed at the number of people who have learned to sew masks. I'm amazed at the number of people who create some sort of protective gear or create things that are resources or gifts for others just because they're tapping into that creative side. I somehow feel as if I lost my creative side when I had my 3rd child. When you only had 2 and 1 to hold on either side, it was great. You could sew, you could make matching clothing, you could do all kinds of things. But somehow when the 3rd one came along, even though she was the most fun, I lost that piece of creativity. Try to keep the main thing, and focus on what you think is important and how you will tell the story of COVID-19. How will you recall what happened during 2020 to your kids and to your grandkids and to theirs? Leave something behind in that coveted journal. So what you can do, balance your mind, your body, and your spirit. You can establish great cooperative relationships with others, partner with others. Make informed, wellness-oriented choices that put you at the top of that list. And please participate in your own health decisions. I noticed that this week in Maryland, the governor has finally opened us up or real face-to-face physician's offices. I'll be honest, I thought it was great when it was only open for certain visits, because then you didn't have to wait in the quote waiting room, which I always call the reception area, because you don't want people to know they're waiting. That's why there's no clock. Never supposed to have the clock and make people think they're waiting. I hated the waiting room, because especially in an ortho office, it was wall-to-wall people. If that's going to happen again, how will we social distance? And how will we protect ourselves? So we need to participate in those decisions. Mindset. Think negatively and expect the worst. Feel pessimistic about your options, and that's exactly what you'll seem to attract into your life. You know the story about, is the glass half full or is it half empty? Which way do you perceive your glass? Think positively, expect the best, and focus on a successful outcome, and that is the result you'll get most of the time. I'll share a funny story with you. When I was learning to play golf at age 50, my husband once on the course said, "How are you going to handle that water hazard?" And my comment was, and I'd only been playing golf for 2 weeks. My comment was, "Water? I don't see any water." Somehow I swung that club and the ball went over the water, because it was all in my mind. I blocked out the water, and if it wasn't there, it just didn't exist. So it shows you what mindset can do. And then there's happiness. This is Dr. Patch Adams. Perhaps you've seen the movie about Patch Adams, and perhaps you're familiar with his Gesundheit Institute. But I want to share with you a little bit about him, because I had the privilege of meeting him in London at an ICN meeting, and of also introducing him to the 68 nurse colleagues from the former Soviet Union who I accompanied. So he says, "First, I wanted to go out and engage the world as this happy soul. I started clowning in public and have done it daily since. Second, I set out to quench my thirst for knowledge by studying everything that I could get my hands on. In order to become an instrument for peace, justice, and care, I read thousands of books. I needed to understand it so that I could create solutions. I became interested in whole systems thinking, looking for ways to integrate it with the hospital community concepts that emerged in medical school. In my imagination, I envisioned a communal, eco-village hospital that would address every problem of the way. Healthcare was delivered in one simple model, and that was the founding of the Gesundheit Institute in March of 1971. He goes on to say that he met his wife Linda during the last year of med school at the Medical College of Virginia, and she helped him with this institute. But with an amazing group of friends, they created this program that was a pilot hospital model, and they operated it for 12 years, always sharing happiness, always sharing joy, even in the face of contradictory healthcare reimbursement. Their policy was no charge, no reimbursement, no malpractice insurance, 3 to 4 hour initial interviews with the patient. Imagine that, instead of 7 minutes by the clock. Home as your hospital, and integration of all of the healing arts, integration of medicine with performing arts like improv and more. They did this for 12 years and saw thousands of patients. And in 1984, they realized that they couldn't continue operating that way and needed a real facility. Therefore, they went public, and therefore he became a speaker, because he needed to be able to fund his happiness initiative. We could all just be a little bit more happy, a little bit more joyous, and share that joy with others. We could all just put that smile on our faces and express joy in what it is we're bringing to others. How much more happier would we be eternally? So Patch Adams is a model. In your own life, be a participant, not a spectator. Nobody's life is perfect. I shared that mine was not. We all have challenges. Some people's lives seem to work better and others do not. Have you ever wondered why? Know what's important. Catherine Pulsick tells us we need to maintain a proper balance in our life by allocating the time that we have. There are occasions when saying no is the best time management practice there is. When you receive your personal copy of B is for Balance, you're going to see a sentence in there that says, no is a complete sentence. It's okay to say no. You don't have to say yes to every single thing that is put in front of us. Because again, we cannot possibly be all things to all people. We'll burn ourselves out. So define who you want to be. Is it about your possessions? Are possessions important to you? What about personal relationships? Who's important in your life? And what about your professional success? How important is that? I have a bucket list. I hope that perhaps you do too. Maybe you are familiar with the American comedy drama that starred Jack Nicholson and Morgan Freeman, a great combination, by the way, about two terminally ill men on a road trip who attempt to do everything on their list before they kick the bucket, hence the bucket list. How do you create a bucket list? First of all, you give yourself permission to think big, to dream big. You're specific, and you build in accountability. It's like those SMART goals that we talk about. What good is a goal if you don't have a time frame for implementation and a measurement structure? So you simplify. Find simplicity in life, the scarce resource, and the secret to high performance and fulfillment. Why make things complicated when they can, in fact, be simple? It is that much easier. Start by letting go of your stuff. You have too much stuff. And I'm amazed at the number of people who are finding things they didn't even know they had during this pandemic. Suddenly they're cleaning a room, they're cleaning that junk drawer that we all have, they're cleaning a closet. My daughter showed me a picture of my son the other day when he must have been probably 6 or 7 years old with his belly hanging out and some sort of a gyration. I have no idea what he was doing. Now he's close to 50, and that picture is really amusing. And I'm sure when he looked at it himself, his kids were really looking at it and saying, wow, your hair was so big. It's like ours during the pandemic. We just couldn't get a haircut. There's a huge blur of information. There is so much stuff that we have that is both personal and professional. In many ways, I'm fortunate that I've moved a lot to 16 homes in 7 states, countries in between. Because of that, I never had a lot of stuff. My closets were always clean. I got rid of things and donated them at the right time. I used to keep every journal in which I had a manuscript published, and then I learned how to go online, download a PDF, and now I save those PDF files online. There is no longer a need for all of that paper. So what steps do you take to let go of your stuff? There are apps that help us to simplify our life. There's an app for everything. There's Fitbit, there's Calm, there's Calendly, there's Headspace. There are so many different ways in which we can just rejoice in the moment, just be ourselves through an app. Again, there is an app for everything. Find the ones on your device, iOS or Android, that'll work for you in your life, in your situation. And then don't just fill your desktop, your base with apps. Use them, categorize them, file them into folders the same way that you would if it were in your filing cabinet in your office. File them on your phone. Make them adaptable, make them visible, make them usable. Trust your intuition. We all have that inner voice. Although we talk about 6 senses or 5 senses, we always say that nursing has a 6th sense. There's always something else that we have that nobody else has. We listen to that inner voice. Maybe it's our gut. It's something that we know. It's something that we feel. It is, in fact, that extra sense. So finally, I want to take this moment to thank you again for coming back, many of you, day after day after day, for more information, for more inspiration, for more wealth of knowledge, to encourage you to take this time during this week to care for yourself as you care for others. This is Nurses Week. It's all about recognition. And while perhaps you don't have the parties and the balloons and the displays per nursing unit in your institutions that you might have had, perhaps you don't have that within your colleges and schools of nursing. What you do have is in your mind and in your heart and within your spirit the reason that you chose this coveted career. Build on that. Enjoy Nurses Week, and please join us again for another session tomorrow. Thank you for being with us today, and have a lovely day. As you now know, there's an app for that, for nearly everything involving self-care, except your commitment. Are you prepared to commit? Let's meet one-on-one or face-to-face with your team and take next steps.